Hey there, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to my guide on how not to play in a UniVersus regional. Many of you know already, but the I guess the long and short of it was I went all the way to the Denver regional. I thought it was going to be the only West Coast event, so I signed up for it, being the closest to where I live in Las Vegas, and was excited to play for the first time in over a year. I didn't really play in any official events last year. I didn't play in the Wish tournament. I didn't play in the Vegas regional, and there's really only like three or four opportunities for me to play. And the way things are set up, by the time you get towards the end of the year, you got like maybe one shot left to make it in nationals. And I do enjoy being a part of those bigger events. So with no nationals this year, I figured I should really take my stab at trying to play at Worlds earlier in the year. Um, I always have the plan to try and attempt to qualify for Worlds, but balancing that with casting has proven to be pretty difficult. Granted, I could just do better at like the one event I play in each year, or the first couple years I played in like three or four, right? So, granted, I could just win more, but giving myself less opportunities to win more has been kind of part of the balance. For those who don't know, the reason I didn't play in the Denver Regional is I could not sign up through the UGN in time. And while I don't think anyone's a fan of the UGN, I don't want to blame the app. Everyone else submitted in time, everyone else was able to do their deck list. I've had troubles with my phone before where I go to my locals and I just can't use the UGN. I can't sign up, I can't report my matches. I can like view my pairings sometimes, and it's just not copacetic. But the thing is, my TO, my local TO, has always been able to just add me to the event. My opponents have always been able to, report the score, and so I didn't really think too much of it. I didn't panic. Um, and when the time came to submit, I had like 45 minutes left, and it's never taken me longer than 10 minutes to submit a deck list. Unless I've been using the UGN. I've used the UGN, I think, exactly once, maybe twice before for community events, but I did it on my computer, and it still took a long time, but I just didn't think that it was going to be the end all be all, I guess, especially being able to sort of prove that I'm having technical issues and that I've got my deck together and I'm ready to play. It's just the website's not letting me. And so at one point, I tried to sign in on someone's computer, but I couldn't remember my password because I always sign in with Google. So I don't know if I even have like a password I can type into the UGN. I don't know if it like shares them or not. So having never like set up a password, having always used Google, I tried to do the Google account recovery thing where Google asks you, hey, is this you on a new device? And after going through several prompts and saying, yes, it's me. Yes, I'm in Denver. Yes, I'm on this device. I just got a blank error message, error 400. So I was never able to sign in. I wasn't able to submit my deck list, and that's on me. I have to own that. That's on me. Again, any like legitimate complaints with the UGN don't stem from this particular arrangement. Uh, because again, everyone else seemed to submit on time, but it does make me curious if someone has had this issue and we just didn't hear about it. If they're just not someone with a YouTube channel talking about it. So I am curious if this has come up, but as far as I know, no one else has ever really had this issue. Most people I talked to about it said, yeah, that's why I submitted my deck list last night. They did their deck list way in advance, and while I did have a deck list ready the night before, and I did change my mind and put together a last minute grog list, which is super sweet, by the way. Um, I would have never like started making my deck list on the website until there was like 45 minutes left because I'm always making last minute additions and subtractions and sideboard options and being wishy-washy in general and stuff like that. So I don't want to like lock in until I like have to, but again, it's never been such an issue to do it last minute. Again, I don't think 45 minutes is really last minute, but it's not the UGN's fault. I don't blame the tournament organizer. They were applying the rules as written. to everyone, and no matter what kind of extra solution you could have come up with to allow me to play, it's not really right to make exceptions for people, you know. I don't think anyone would have really complained if we found like some way to work around it, but that's not really the point of the rules. And as a bit of a stickler myself, I can respect that. Respect wanting to apply the rules to every player, every individual the same. And that is, in my opinion, the fairest way to do it. So I wasn't able to follow the rules. I wasn't able to play. But that did give me, almost poetically, the opportunity to play in side events for the first time. And so throughout the first day, I still couldn't sign up for any side events because while I could go to the UGN page and try to sign up, when I went to the payment screen, everything would just blank out. And I don't think I've ever paid for an event through the UGN on my phone or anything like that. So it became pretty clear that afternoon that the UGN and I just weren't going to be friends. It wasn't going to work with my phone. And I had to do a workaround on Levi's computer, and I won't get into it, but you know, there was there was extra leaps and bounds that had to be made. So I did get to play in a couple side events. I played in a bring your own booster draft, which was neat and is cool that they allow you to kind of draft anything for prize wall tickets. It did seem bittersweet to the people I was drafting with who bought the box and brought it and they invited me. And they were surprised that they had to pay for the side event. And they can't give away free tickets just because you already have product that you were going to buy. But it does feel kind of weird if you buy the box at the event. I feel like giving at least some people like a free admission or something to it is kind of a fair trade-off, you know, like a discounted ticket, you know, even just at least the person who bought the box maybe. But I don't know if that, like, there's all kinds of additional riders that come with that. If they could give away prize wall tickets or, you know, entries to events which are effectively prize wall tickets for the purchase of product, I think that that might step over some boundaries. So while I 100% understand like the idea of like I already paid for this box and now I have to pay again to be able to play in like the event and it like adds up, you know, I mean if you get like 8 people to draft a box and they buy the box, that's like over $150 at least, right? Depending on the box, I guess. There might be some really cheap retro ones. We ended up doing Critical Role, so you know that's quite a heavy price. I mean, it's spread out over 8 people and things like that, but it is kind of a big number to invest into like 3 prize wall tickets or like 2 and 2, you know, because the way they had set up was you got 2 for entering and 2 for winning a side event, or if it was a boss battle, everyone got 3 because there's no real winner. And I think over the course of the weekend they fired over 30. I think I want to say the number I heard was like 31. Someone could probably find out on the UGM by just like searching boss battles or something because they were numbered. But I know there was like high 20s. I know that they were just like going on and on. They picked up as the weekend went on because they are like the fastest way to farm the points, you know, especially if you're with a group who like know what they're doing. And I think that the biggest issue is the prize wall promos are great. Uh, I spent all my prize wall tickets on a playmat of like a boomer card that you know I don't expect many people to know or care about, and I got 4 prize wall tickets. I got one of each, you know. And if we're like obsessed with the math and the value, I spent $12 twice, 24, no, 3 times. I spent about $30, and if I keep getting money for the price of the promos I sold them for throughout the weekend, I got like $76 in pricing, right? So $30 that can be turned into, or $36 that can be turned into $76 seems like a really good return rate for me for playing in events and having fun. And if I want to just keep those promos, that's even better, right? So the prize, I think the prize wall is really cool. I think the prize ticket economy is not bad. But it is the kind of thing where it does seem like people were focusing on ticket farming more than like playing in the events, which is why I like the retro event the most. It seemed like the one where people were actually just like trying to play some games, you know. I did end up winning that one, though not without some kerfluffles. I had a round where I sealed an attack against Jacob Johnson's Nick Reagan deck. He did the Nick Reagan enhance, which lets you play the ability on the removed card, so it doesn't matter about sealed attack. But that enhance copied abilities onto this attack, and like the whole enhance step and the whole board state was so long. You know, it was like the fifth attack of the turn, right? There's so many things in all the card pools, and just, you know, retro cards in general, kind of muddying the waters, playing the deck for the first time, etc. Um, didn't catch it until after I started scooping up my cards and was like, oh wait, that couldn't copy the abilities that gave it all the speed and damage, right? So he was an honorable opponent, and he was like, you know, there's only like 5 minutes left. We can play game three. And I told him, you know, it's your win. We didn't catch it until it was too late. If you want to take the win, like take it, you know, like to not be like serious about the side event, you know. But he was like, no, we can play game three, and I'll take the win if you don't beat me, right? So more than I could ask for, and I managed to have like for my slow ass 10 attack, you know, doesn't ever win on turn two deck to play like the 2/7 diff, big moves, build 6 foundations, and literally like leave myself open with one card in hand to just say, I hope he doesn't draw basically any attacks, and then him to full brick into me being able to win on the next turn. Like literally all the stars aligned. So kind of one of those shouldn't have even happened moments, one of those like, you know, I don't know how you'd view it if like justice was restored or whatever, like in a ball don't lie kind of situation. But I was pretty ecstatic to pull the win out in the game three, because again, everything had to go exactly right for me with that time frame. I had to draw my 2/7 difficulty attacks. I had to stack 0 diffs on top of my deck to be able to play 6 cards in the turn, so that way the seventh card is the other 7 diff and it's free. Like there's a whole very strict regimen of how I had to play 7 cards in one turn to just deal not even half of Jacob Johnson or Nick Reagan's health, you know, the Jacob's character, right? So and then also one of the foundations I built on turn two had to be a very specific, unique foundation, and I had to have all the characters in my discard pile. Like you can watch. I'll do a deck profile video. I know I'm probably like speaking over a lot of people's heads. I did a little bit of an interview with Response on Play. I hung out with them throughout the weekend. That was very fun, and we talked about retro for like way too long. And I am going to do like a deck profile of the retro deck, but you know, I tied Kyle Wright, who could have easily won the event, and he's put probably more time into retro decks than anyone. His deck was incredibly frustrating. I made a lot of misplays. It was not easy, and I had to again be very lucky to even tie that deck. So like in the Response on Play video, they're like, you gotta be like, yeah, I won, I'm the king of retro, you know. But it was very much not like I was stomping the competition. I borrowed the deck from Christopher Bromley. I had an excellent time. I had more fun playing those like 4 retro games than I have playing standard in so long. But as I mentioned kind of in the interview, I don't know if it's because it's not the main format, right? Like I play it so sparingly. If I played it as much as I did standard, maybe I wouldn't feel that way. So take from that what you will. But I played in retro side event. I played in booster, bring your own booster box draft, and I played in teams. And unfortunately, it was kind of difficult getting a team together. My local Brandon Jones was going to team with me, and then he disappeared, and I couldn't find him. And my Discord message apparently didn't go through. And he showed up with like 7 minutes left, and I've been like stressing about signing up for events all weekend, so I didn't want to wait. I don't want to miss out. This was going to be like basically the last side event of the weekend and stuff, and I was like mathematically like 3 tickets away from getting like all the stuff I wanted, and I ended up getting all the stuff I wanted. So it was very cool. I ended up playing Rebulin's Percival deck, the combined firepower Percival, and I won one of my matches, and I was so close to winning like 2 matches I should not have won. which was pretty depressing. I let my team down. Maybe if I was more experienced with the Percy deck, I'm sure I killed myself like once or twice by doing the response to pay a life. And my final game, like I did 4 damage to myself, and they only had to play 2 Walk the Dogs in Mitchell Semino with like 1 momentum to scoop up my 7-hander. But every game that I lost, except for the one where Nick Reagan turned 2'd me, I was 1 5 check away. I pulled out some pretty amazing stuff. Like that deck, that Rebulion's Percival deck has some like insane plays, and it was very cool to almost stumble into them. Like not a lot of people are talking about No Mercy Percy and the fact that it has Echo. And my favorite play of the teams event was I played a dual needle lunge. I did a combined firepower. I hit like 2 non-foundations and avoiding conflict, and I think I had one other damage source or something like that, and it was for like 10 damage exactly. And Percy made it too fast. It was Science Bros. I had like 2 hits. One of them was avoiding conflict, and I had Science Bros out. So it ended up being like 11 damage, right? And it's too fast for the poor Ghidorah player. That I felt kind of bad. They only built like 2 foundations, and I think they had to commit their character to build the second one. So it wasn't like a super competitive board state. But for turn 2, hitting dual needle lunge, taking ahead felt really good. Then playing No Mercy Percy, and with Science Bros out, easily making that one too fast to block, and enough and 10 damage, and then being able to echo it and get the Percy response. One of the few games where I didn't check poorly, and send that one for 10 damage, and basically turn to a Ghidorah with 3 attacks played. Felt pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. Again, that was predicated on the Ghidorah player basically having no opening, but Ghidorah is hard enough to kill, so we take those. And then most of my games looked like that, except I checked a 3 on the final attack. So a lot of my games were pretty much like that. There was one game against the Nick Reagan that turned 2'd me, which I shouldn't have won that match because I lost the dice roll, and like I shouldn't have even really taken a game off the deck. But in the final match, they put me to like 4. I had like some amazing defense, combined firepower, blocking besiege was a big deal, and then uh it hurts to think about the penultimate attack. He's at like 10 health, and I'm gonna send like a 5 damage pepper box. I played like 3 attacks, and I'm playing like a pepper box on a 6, I think, and then a pepper box on a 7, and they're both gonna be for like 5 damage, and it's gonna be exact lethal. But he blocks with a true 100%, like at 10 health or at 9 health or something like that. Um, and it was the one card in his hand, right? It's the one card he's holding, and it was just like, oh, it was so depressing seeing that come out. And he ended up living at 7 because I thought about it for a second. I was like, well, I can play this pepper box, and the only play that wins me the game is explicitly check a combined firepower and hit off of it, which most likely was going to hit 2 damage, right? But or I think I need to hit like 1 damage off of it, maybe something like that, because if the one is like a remove with Science Bros, whatever it was. But the thing was, I was gonna have to commit Science Bros to play the pepper box. So whatever it was, I was like now 2 damage off, and it was so very, very depressing. And yeah, it it was two matches in a row after having like the amazing Ghidorah match to like open up and get acquainted with the deck and be like, oh, this is what this deck can do. It's so sick. Having like having Nick Reagan and Mitchell Semino as my next 2 opponents, and it being like really close but not being able to pull it out was pretty tough. So only ended up getting like 2 tickets from that event. I got 4 tickets from the from the retro event, and I got 2 tickets from the booster box draft. So I got 8 tickets and spent about $36. I remember I got tickets from something else. I got tickets. They still let me get my 5 tickets for entering the main event. I paid my $30. So that was cool. I just basically dropped immediately as far as that goes. Um, and yeah, so I ended up with like 12 or 13 prize wall tickets. I was able to get a set of the Denver promos, which are only going to be available at Denver and the UK regional this upcoming month. So, those feel like they're going to be pretty valuable. My locals, wanted a bunch of them. So, uh, if I end up selling, like, I still have two of them, I think. Yeah. I still have like the Might of Stone, and I have like the John T. Trickster. Oh, I just dropped it. But so if I manage to continue selling these promos for like $20, like I made out like a bandit from three side events that I didn't have to win two of them. I didn't even have to have like a winning record in two of them. So I think the prize wall economy is pretty good. Obviously it could be better or like I guess more player friendly, but what couldn't be, right? I would like to see more accessories, I guess. I was really expecting to go in there and like get sleeves. I saw like sleeves for like one ticket. Um but they were like, sleeves already owned. So maybe that's why. But I would love to see like more play mats, more deck boxes, more sleeves, all that stuff. Pretty difficult to kind of price out, but you know, if you spend $12 on two tickets and two tickets gets you a package of sleeves, that's like fair market value. If you win two tickets, you got free sleeves. I think that that's a great bargain. I think that's a slam dunk win. Um, so yeah, I don't know what else I'd like to see. I don't care too much for like the statues. The symbol pins are cool. Symbol pins, like just having a way for players to get this stuff, I think is pretty important. So I know a lot of the talk of the loyalty store, the reward store, has been like about the pricing of things and how long it takes to get stuff. I think as far as like for your time and money, the prize wall was pretty good. It's just kind of rough if there's nothing you actually want on the prize wall. Playing in the side events did feel like it wasn't so much about the event, and that's probably just due to the size of the regional itself. Like we have 85 people signed up for the regional. There's no way we're going to get 30 people for one of the side events. But that's where I'd like to see it get to. I'd like to see it get to a point where, maybe people are more excited about the side event. Maybe they don't need a world's invite and we get like a 1K going on the side event. That would be like pipe dream, like to have a 1K side event. But I don't know, imagine if there was more people who already had their day one invite or already had their day two invite and they went to the regional and they got some prize tickets in the regional and they're like, if I'm not like killing it, if I'm like on the bubble, maybe you'd rather play in the 1K the next day. Maybe we get like maybe for day two it cuts to top 16 and everyone else is like stoked about playing in a 1K. I think that would be, again, pipe dream. The 1K fake number. Maybe it's a $500 travel voucher, right? I know we can't do cash prizes or something, right? But that's the kind of thing I would love to see. I would love to see like an event where we get like 30 to 50 people in the side event and it feels like a full-on event, because the side events felt like locals with better pricing. And that's not a terrible place to be. That's just for me personally. And again, maybe it's because I was, not burnt out from playing the standard regional. All in all, the weekend I had a great time. I hung out with the Response on Play folks. We roomed together, did some content. It was very cool. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just because I've done commentary so much and I'm used to being at the event and not playing. But it didn't ruin my mood as much as I thought, especially when I talked to players who like O2 dropped, or I talked to players who, were playing in the event all weekend. Like they didn't get to play as many side events as I did because they were like trying to make top 16, or they were in contention for like world's points that they wanted for top 32. And by the end of it, they weren't exactly happy that they spent the whole time, every round of Swiss in the main event just to not even like be close to making day two. So like I would rather be relaxing and hanging out with people and not stressing about playing than I would being someone who stressed about playing and didn't get to play day two. So, I gotta take it as it comes, and I kept my ego intact. I didn't have to get my ego ruined. But man, I really felt like when that grog deck came together, which most of it was Brian Garza, but there's a bunch of other people. I don't want to start naming everyone else, but Brian Garza gave me like so much of this grog deck that I had on Ultra that I did test, that I was thinking about playing over Rodan, but Rodan like speaks to me on like a major playstyle. Like the playstyle really speaks to me. But the last minute decision to play Grog was twofold. One, always cool in Grog has a really sick interaction because Grog doesn't reduce the damage of the attack. So always cool plus Grog is like always cool -2. And I think that's sick. And always cool with greater goal is a sick interaction, which helps with Grog. And always cool is good into attacks like Patchwork Baby and True 100% and Death from Above and even Besiege to an extent, like late game Besiege. If you can't block it, lock it at 4. If you can't block it, lock it. That's a t-shirt. And so I think that the Grog deck had a lot of sick plays into the format. In my testing with the Grog list, you draw so many cards and you punish like slow poke decks like Rodan and like the one-shot Deku, which can block everything. They have the speed hate to block everything, but you actually are able to play more attacks and they all have damage pump and they all are threatening. And you just really aggro them out. You just win that race. You make Deku build extra foundations along with his interaction. And, Ascend to Battle. Ascend to Battle was not working for me in my testing with Rodan because the Rodan list that Andrew Porat played was similar, obviously, because it's Rodan and it's the same symbol, but not the same. We weren't playing the same deck. But we definitely took influence from each other and went, I like what you're doing. I'm doing something a little different, and he liked what I was doing, right? So probably like post sideboard, we end up looking similar. But Ascend to Battle didn't work for me in my testing because Always Cool was such a house against it, and similar effects. Canceling the Blitz, Aerial Goblin Bolt makes that card look stupid. Aerial Goblin Bolt makes Ascend to Battle blank basically. So without ways to interact with Aerial Goblin Bolt, I didn't feel great. There are ways on the symbols and stuff like that, but like I just didn't really have it. So all in all, I was really excited because I felt like it would be such a cool story. Like all these people came together, they like spirit bombed this Grog deck. I borrowed basically every card last minute in the morning, and I had the deck complete. It wasn't 100% exactly how I would have wanted it. I think I was missing like one copy each of like the secret rare attacks I was gonna play. And I think I was missing like 1 or 2 action cards I would have really liked. Like I didn't have Quenma's Task maybe, but I had Showdowns. So I don't know if I play both. Anyways, I felt like with that list, that deck, because of the story behind it, because of the idea of all these people putting their energy together, it's so anime. It felt like that deck would have for sure won the event. But after seeing Andrew Porat win with Rodan, I feel like it's maybe the universe telling me that I was wrong. The universe kind of punishing me for getting off the correct deck that did win the event. But we'll never really know, so I don't beat myself up over it. But I do pay attention to signs from the universe. So maybe that was telling me that I was onto something. And instead of sparing me the pain of losing, having a bad record with the Grog deck, and then watching it, because that would have been the worst. Watching Andrew play the deck because he was mad at me for jumping off Rodan. I sent him a message like a week before the event going, maybe it's time to be Rodan pilled. And I was Rodan pilled for like a whole week while trying other decks, but focusing on that one. And switching last minute, that's the universe's way of, sending me a sign. So all in all, I had a great time in Denver. The location was absolutely fantastic. If we could have all of our regionals at that exact hotel, I would not complain. The breakfast, everyone loved the breakfast. The complimentary breakfast was sick. The location wasn't like near anything, but wasn't far from anything. So that was pretty cool. And I don't know, Denver's just a really cool city. The weather was great. It's so hot in Vegas now. Like it's like the same temperature in Vegas and in Denver throughout that weekend. And like it rained and it snowed, and like you know, seeing the snowy mountains was really cool. But now I'm back in Vegas, and like spring is hitting, and it's already too hot in my room. So I'm gonna end this video. But look out for Response on Play's interviews. I did a lot of really cool interviews. Look out for retro deck profile. And I don't know if I'm gonna play in New Mexico or not. I feel like I should, because I don't want to be viewed as a phony who doesn't play the game anymore. If I don't go to any regionals, how are people supposed to trust me and my opinions on competitive UniVersus, right? That's my main goal. But I don't know. If I win the David Toombs event or something, I'll take that as credit that I know what I'm talking about. And so, yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.